Is there a reason you only do index options now as opposed to trading various stocks directly with shares? And that is our topic, stocks versus options, and why I choose to do options and trade them the majority of the time. So on that note, yes, I still do trade stocks, but majority of the time I'm doing options. And I want to walk you through why that is the case. And it has to do with the amount of money required and then the amount of space you need for prices to move. And I'll explain more on what I mean by that here in just a few moments. But let's walk through a couple different examples. First, starting off with the stock and working around a premise of trying to make $1,000, because I will show you here in a little bit me making $1,000 using options. But let's first figure out what would that require to make $1,000 using a stock. So here we are, and let's take a look at Tesla. And I'm just using Tesla because it is a volatile stock. It's one that's very popular. And are there, other stocks out there? Of course, but Tesla is one very, very volatile and one where you could make $1,000, very realistically in a couple of different situations. So let's just walk through some basic math here and think about what would be required from a monetary standpoint. So let's just say that, I want to buy 100 shares of Tesla, right? 100 shares of Tesla. And because it opened up today right around this area, let's just call it $328. And I'm doing it on this particular day because you'll see that by using options on the same exact day, things are a little different. But so we'll call it 328. So not to insult your intelligence, but if we want 100 shares, we have to multiply that by the price, which we're just going to call 328, which puts us at the required capital of $32,800. So in order to get 100 shares on Tesla, you would need $32,800 for 100 shares. Now to get to 1,000, we would need for Tesla stock to move $10, right? Because if you have 100 shares and you want $1,000 and you multiply that by 10, that would give you the $1,000 profit. So we've determined how much money would be required, $32,800, and then how much of a move, how much of a distance would Tesla need to move in order for $1,000? And that would be, like I said, $10. Now, on this note, let's just take a look visually at the space that would be required. So if you're right here at, 328, we'd have to go all the way down there to we'd have to go down there to $318. So this box right here is representing the distance that would be needed for Tesla to drop in order to make $1,000 on 100 shares. Now, to be fair, maybe saying, well, Clay, you could shorten that distance if you had more shares. And that is a fair point. So let's say that, we're going to do 200 shares. So 200 shares, cross that out. And then obviously this would just be doubled in required money. So 200 times, 328 would be a little over $64,000. So $64,000 would now be required for this trade. But to be fair, yes, you'd be able to basically cut this in half, and then the distance required would be only that distance right there. But still a pretty big distance. So this is how the numbers are working out if you were to use stocks, and a stock like Tesla that could realistically move $10 in your favor, $5 in your favor. This is how the numbers would all be playing out.
Great story, compelling and rich.
And I want to keep this as fair and objective. Yes, you could use a whole lower stock, so a stock that's trading for $50, for example, but then it becomes, okay, well, how much is that $50 stock going to have to move in order to get to that $1,000 gain? So that's just something where the numbers are going to balance. The higher the price goes, sure, you don't need as much movement, but you are going to need a whole lot of capital. On the flip side, sure, if you make it where you don't need as much capital, where you're going to need just that much more of movement in your favor in order to get to that $1,000 mark. But now let's weigh this situation with the world of options. And I want to note right up front, options will completely bust your face in if you don't treat them with respect, if you don't show up educated and knowing what you're doing. So please realize that up front. Yes, what you're about to see is going to be like, whoa. But understand, if you don't know what you're doing, options will take your lunch just like that. So now let's take a look at options. Before anything else though, we need to do a quick options lesson, and this will show you how easy options are at the get-go. I know sometimes options seem very complicated and they can be made that way, but they don't have to be made that way. So the rule that I want you to apply moving forward and that you'll need to use is this: multiply by 100. If you can multiply by 100, then I applaud you. So what I am doing here, and I'm showing you an actual trade that occurred, but I want to buy an option contract is the terminology. And I want to buy the option contract at 160, but that's not $160. Why? Hopefully you're saying, well, Clay, you just told us we've got to multiply by 100. Exactly. So the actual money required in this situation is I have to multiply that by 100, which puts the requirement of $16,000 being needed in order to take part in this trade. So $16,000 needed to get one contract. So now let's see how this trade plays out. And for those of you not very familiar with my screen, the profit and losses will start to fluctuate over here as soon as I am able to buy. So let's get this playing here. So the trade is underway. And this is one where I actually want to see the price come down. And by coming down, I will make money on it. So I'm going short, or in the world of options, I have bought a put contract. So I am now out. If you're saying, geez, that kind of didn't take that long, you would be correct. Right here, you can see in this column, the times, it took 19 seconds for that trade to play out. And then you look over here, and you can see that $1,000 was made, and I bought at 160, sold at 170. So I made $10 per contract, but what do we have to do with that number? Well, if you're saying, well, Clay, it's options, we've got to multiply by 100. Exactly. Multiplying by 100 is where the $1,000 came from. But what about the distance? Well, now think about those boxes that I drew on Tesla. Well, right here is where I got filled at that area right there. Right here is where I got out. Notice the size of this box. Not that big, especially when you consider it to those boxes that I drew on Tesla.
Yes! That's awesome!
So as you see, less money was required and less movement was required, yet I was still able to generate that same exact $1,000. And to think that it happened in 19 seconds, now do they all happen that quick? Of course not, but it's also not mind-blowing within the world of options for something to move that quickly. And again, not that much money was required. So on that note, maybe you're saying, well, wait a second, Clay. Okay, fine. So only $16,000 was required, but I don't have anywhere close to $16,000. And that's the next cool thing with options is there is a variety of prices that you could choose from in order to get involved. So here was a member's results from today too, and you can see that they bought a contract for $125.30. Again, well, how much money was required for them? Multiply by 100, $12,530. Now you might be saying, well, Clay, I still don't have that. Stick with me. I'm going to show you how cool they are. But once again, to just illustrate here, this was 28 seconds of time, and this person made $970. So distance-wise, it did not need to move as much, and only $12,000 was required relative to what it would take on a stock. But to be fair, you may be saying, well, Clay, like I said, I don't have that amount of money. Well, the nice thing with options are that they'll give you a bunch of prices, and in option lingo, strike prices. Now, I'm not going to go into that, but I will show you here in a little bit where you can learn more on all this stuff. But here you see a variety of prices, and all these will give you access to the same thing, but just at varying cost. And in order, well, how much cost, how much money would need to be required? Well, you know what I'm going to say now, multiply by 100. So any one of these numbers you see, multiply by 100, and that's what it would cost to buy a single contract. One other note, maybe you're saying, geez, Clay, the volume seems very low. That is a little deceiving compared to stocks because options, just the way they're leveraged, the volume is always going to be lower than what you would see on stocks. So don't let that kind of persuade you one way or the other. But the other, like I said, great thing about options is even if these numbers were a little too big for you, you could still come in and right here, multiply by 100. the question becomes, do you have $290 in your account? Do you have $840 in your account? Do you have $1,920 in your account? Depending on how you answer those, you know what, that would tell you if you could afford these. And I should note that these things go even lower. So they would get down into pennies. So you could reach a point where, do you have $75 in your account? Do you have $65 in your account? So, there's a whole lot of variety within the world of options. So don't let the numbers that you've heard, persuade you one way or the other. So maybe you're thinking, okay, Clay, you've convinced me enough to want to learn more, but do you offer anything that could at least get me started in my options journey? And yes, I do. I offer a totally free class, The Big Basics of Day Trading Options, which is an online guide. And if you are interested in getting a link to this, just comment below option guide and I will link you to this free class, which will give you that firm foundation to which you can build from. So to quickly recap, why am I mainly choosing to do options over stocks? Options require less money and they require less movement in order to get the same amounts of gains that you could get from a stock. But I also want to be fair and reiterate, I'll still trade stocks. There's nothing wrong with stocks, but it's just something that, as you saw, the person asked. So I wanted to answer that. And I hope this gives you a better idea and maybe piques your interest to want to learn more about options. So if you do, again, just comment below option guide and I will link you to that free class. If there are any other questions or anything like that, please leave those down below. And if you enjoy this content, if you would like for me to continue to make this, then please do one easy thing that doesn't cost anything at all. Just hit the subscribe button. That one thing really does it has a big impact and it really helps out the channel. So if you could just do that, maybe hitting the like button too, but if nothing else, hitting the subscribe button really helps out and I thank you in advance for doing that. So I hope this helps and let me know if you have any questions. First off, thanks so much for watching the entire video. Real quick, before you go, I want to invite you to a live webinar, web class, training, workshop, online event, whatever you want to call it, but it will be me live revealing to you what I've discovered that has allowed me to transform myself from being an employee to being my own boss, including how I had only one losing day out of 73 days in total. I'm going to cover 3 keys that have helped me unlock profitable consistency within the markets. The first key is super weird, but in a productive type of way. The second key is super awesome because it quite literally is wired into our DNA as humans, making it very easy to use. But in a cruel way, this becomes a pitfall for many traders. I'll explain it all though, including how to avoid the pitfall that it creates for some. And yeah, the third key, when you hear it, sounds way too good to be true, but it's not, and I'll show you how it all works. Then at the end, I open it up for a question and answer session that is, again, totally live. Even if you can't make the live session, please still sign up as it will be recorded and you can go back and watch the replay that I will send you. Click the image on the screen or click the link down in the description box so you can get the date and time and claim your spot, which I should note is limited due to the fact that this truly is a live event. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'll be seeing you soon.